This will be the first of hopefully many devlogs where I talk about the new game that I'm working on. It's a third-person shooter mixed with a grand strategy game. And well, with all that out of the way, let me show you what I got. Okay, so before I jump into what I've been working on, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Alex. I work as a developer. I've worked for both large and small companies. In the last few years, probably the last 5 years, I've been working in Unity, and I've worked on games, applications. Recently, I've started working on some tools and SDK for other developers. And I've also been doing some contract work, working on other people's games in my spare time. In 2019, I tried starting up my own company, making location-based VR a reality. I spent a whole bunch of money and time on it, but in the end, it was a failure.
Good job.
So yeah, that kind of sucked. But I didn't want all this hard work to go to waste. So around 6 months ago, I decided to dust off my old work and turn it into something new. Now, with that said, I do have a full-time job, so I can only work on this on the weekends. So to accelerate things and to make things go by faster, I'm going to be heavily relying upon a bunch of different tools. I'll be going over these tools with you guys, talking about which ones I'm using, giving you recommendations on which ones I think you should use, and if you're interested in doing what I'm doing, you can go out and get those assets yourself. I'll probably also be going to the asset store and buying a crap ton of different assets. And whatever I can't find on the asset store, I plan on just, filling in those holes by making it myself. I feel pretty confident in my modeling and texturing skills. I should be able to match pretty much anything that I buy. It's just going to take time and effort. Now, moving on. For the gameplay, it's going to be a cross between a third-person shooter and a strategy game. For my inspiration, I'm going to be heavily drawing upon the Total War series and also the old Star Wars Battlefield 2. Now, in the old Star Wars Battlefield 2, they had this awesome game mode called Galaxy Conquest. Now, I don't know how many of you remember playing that game, but for me, it was one of my favorite game modes of all time. I loved playing with my friends, talking trash about them, and conquering the galaxy. It was just a blast to play. And my goal is to take that same gameplay and imbue it into my game and hopefully make something awesome. But at the same time, I'd still like to change some things, especially in the strategy part of the game. I'd like to be able to follow games like the Total War series or Stellaris or something like that, wherein you'll be able to have more control over your resources, what kind of armies you build, how big you build your armies. You'll be able to control where those armies go. I'll still have the same mechanic where you're moving your men and everything from one solar system to the next solar system. But once you conquer a solar system, you'll be able to, research new technologies, make some new buildings that give you different troops that you can build, have things like diplomacy, have to, manage your resources and everything right. And if you don't, risk pissing off everyone and causing big rebellions that you got to go squash. Another big area that I'd like to focus in is having some generals. I think back to, like World War II, some of the big generals like George S. Patton or Douglas MacArthur, these great men who really shaped how that war turned out. I'd like to be able to have generals in this game who really are valuable. And if they die, I want it to be a huge setback. I don't want these generals to be something that you lose or something that you'll want to lose. And actually, I was thinking of a cool mode where if you lose a battle, your general, you'll have like a chance to save him. Like he'll be up in like the big command center, the big spaceship above the planet. You'll have like one last chance to save the general. And if you do, you'll be able to keep him. If not, he's dead. And now you've lost that great general. Another thing I'd like to be able to do is have spies and assassins. And I'd actually like to be able to let you as the player play those roles. So like, let's say you're trying to assassinate one of the other generals from another faction. You could be the one who goes out and tracks down that general and shoots him right in the head and scurries away. I think that kind of gameplay would be really fun. But for the time being, these are just my ideas. We'll see which ideas I decide to do and which ones I don't. But for the strategy, though, I'm pretty excited to kind of push the boundary past what Star Wars Battlefield had and kind of make something, you know, a little bit more modern, a little bit more exciting to play. I just realized I've been calling this Star Wars Battlefield the whole time. It's Star Wars Battlefront. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about something else. Okay, so the first thing that I did for this project was work on the main character. And this character is by far my favorite part of this game. I mean, this character is just gorgeous. Now, the story behind this character is originally he was purchased with a commercial license back for that VR game I talked about. Since we never did anything with that game or did anything with this model, I thought, why not use this model for this game? And one of the things I love about this model is just how well it's been made. If you look at it, it just looks beautiful. Not only does it look beautiful, but it's pretty well designed. Like, the poly count for it is about 30,000, which isn't too bad. I had one of the artists spend some time and down-res it, or decimate it down to about 5,000 poly. So it should work for both multiplayer and single player. Now, for myself, I do have skills in modeling. I can model, I can texture, I can do all those, you know, artsy stuff. So I feel pretty comfortable going in and taking this character as a base and start modifying him, making some different armor options. Because one of the things I'd love to be able to do with this character is give people the options to, you know, buy skins, to be able to, you know, get all those different cosmetics so that we can make a little bit of dollar bills, you know. But we'll see what I do. I'm gonna hold off for now because right now I just don't want to deal with that. So for now, we'll just keep him as he is. Now, when I bought this model, it didn't come with a rig, but that's okay with me. You know, I'm decent with rigging. For me, I typically like to rig in Maya. The auto rigger that Maya has is pretty darn good. And in fact, for most of the models, that's what I've used. But for this character, I actually didn't use that because it's a little basic and I wanted to be able to have a little bit more control. So I turned to another one of my favorite little plugins for Maya. It's called Advanced Skeleton. This tool is just one of my favorite rigging tools. It's simple, it's easy to use, has a bunch of really cool features. The one thing that I really like about it is they have an option for games, so you can export it out to Unreal or to Unity, and it's set up just right for it. And so that's what I ended up using for this character. Now, it has more bones than you typically would want for most of your characters, because the more bones you have, the more processing you're gonna have to do on it. So for the main character, you kind of want to have a bunch of bones so that you can get all that fine detail, but for like NPCs, you really want to keep it basic. I will say I do have some more work to do on painting the weights. I mean, it looks good for now, but there were a few areas I saw where it just looks like crap. I'll have to come back and fix it, but for now, I'm just gonna keep it as is. I don't really care. It's good enough. Now, originally I was gonna use dots to code up my project. Now, I don't know how many of you have worked with dots, but dots is this really cool system that Unity has just unveiled. It's this entity component system that enables you to make your game more performant. Now, for me, I was able to pull off some pretty cool stuff. In my original plan for the game, I wanted you to be able to control an entire field army, which is about 50,000 units. So the idea would be you would have 50,000 units under your control and your opponent would have 50,000 units. So I'll give you a quick rundown of what you're looking at. So you've got the field army, and that was broken up into divisions. And the divisions are represented by these little blue boxes. And then those were further broken down into battalions, and then into companies and platoons, which I can't remember exactly what was what, but I think the companies are the red boxes. And if you look inside of the company, you've got a bunch of different platoons, which are these little formations that you see. And then the formations were broken down into the squads. And each squad is that cluster of stars, with the middle star being the commander, and then the other 9 stars being all the other soldiers. And if you look right here, this is kind of what it looked like in the game. So this map right here is just a big overview of all these soldiers. And originally I had all of them nav meshed, so that was 50,000 units all running around, but that actually was a little too much. And from the map view, you don't really know what's going on. It's just so small. So I made it so that the 9 soldiers all followed their commander. And so that reduced it to about 10,000 units that were all nav meshed and running around on the map, which is actually pretty impressive. There's this Bracky videos you can go take a look at. And in that video, Bracky's, he has about 10,000 units all running around just using basic mono behavior. And I think he was able to get about 6 frames a second. But with dots, I was able to get close to 60 frames per second.
Most impressive.
Now, I wanted to allow the player to be able to control the entire army, but this proved difficult. I mean, having this many units all running around the screen, it was just really hard to control. On top of that, dots is kind of hard to deal with, especially if you want to mix dots with old Unity code, old mono behavior code. And unfortunately, that didn't really work so well. And after a few months of just slogging it out, I finally decided that this isn't working. This is too much work. As cool as it is to be able to see this many units all scurrying around the screen, I'd actually like to be able to get this game done. And so, like my past dreams, I had to axe dots and, well, put it out of its misery. Okay, now let's get back to another thing that I worked on. Now, another area that I spent some time on was streaming. The original plan was to make some massive maps that were 24 kilometers big and allow the player to roam anywhere on the map. But I realized really quick that was a lot of work, and it just didn't really look that great. I spent some more time looking into it, and eventually I decided that I was just going to procedurally generate the entire map. The idea being you could walk around the map, and as you traverse through the map, new pieces of the map would be loaded in front of you. Now, I found this really cool tool called Map Magic that I'm going to be using for the rest of my development. It's a node-based system that procedurally generates infinite terrains. So for me, this tool will work great because what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a bunch of different planets and create terrains for each one of those planets. Now, the different planets I'd like to be able to make are a forest planet. I'd also like to do some type of desert planet, maybe some ice planets, some volcano planets, and, well, pretty much anything else my little heart can come up with. The other thing that I really like about this tool is it supports a bunch of the other tools that I'm currently using. One of those is Vegetation Studio Pro. And what's even cooler is this tool also works with a large number of other asset packs for environment. And creating environments isn't one of my strong suits, so I'm actually pretty excited that I can go out and get a bunch of packs that, give me trees, rocks, and different things, so I don't have to go out and make them myself. Overall, Map Magic is an awesome tool. It's a tool that I'll be using. It's a tool that I would actually encourage you guys to use. If you look through the app, it, like I said, it does procedural generation. It also does splines, so you can put roads and rivers. It supports biomes, so you can have deserts, and then have your deserts slowly transition to forests, and then into some type of frozen tundra. There's just a whole bunch of cool things that you can do with this tool. And the best part is right now Unity is having their spring sale. So if you follow this link, which I have in the description below, you can go get it for half off. So what are you waiting for? You should go get it. It's awesome. Whatever. Well, I still have a few other items to cover to bring you up to date with what I've been working on. Things like setting up the character, city generation, AI, etc. But I'll save that for next devlog. So until then, if you like what you've been seeing and you want to see more of my game development, hit subscribe and that little bell icon, and I'll see you again next time.